Hello everyone, it's me, Tom. There are about 3 videos on this channel right now of me using throwing knives. And since last video did pretty well for a channel with 50 subscribers, I thought it would be cool to go over my loadout so I could inspire you guys to play throwing knives as well. Because in my opinion, throwing knives are the most fun weapons in the game, and I really like synergizing it with the rest of my kit. So it's not just shoot like most guns and then sometimes throw in a gadget. You're very dependent on your gadgets, so choose them wisely. But first of all, let's start with the throwing knives themselves. Let's start off with the very basics. Throwing knives are a projectile-based weapon. There are 2 projectiles in the normal left click. After you click your mouse button, or your fire button, the first knife doesn't instantly come out. It has a little bit of a wind-up time. It's very minimal, but knowing this exists will help you out a lot. This might seem obvious, but the second knife doesn't go to the spot of the first knife. So you can spread them out like this, or even like this. Although you're never gonna really try to hit 2 people at once, it's definitely doable. Second is the right click. The right click actually got changed since the earlier days of throwing knives. The right click used to do this, no matter what. So you press right click and it would grab the knives and throw them instantly. But now you can actually hold it. So if you've been out of the finals for a while and you didn't know this, keep in mind you can hold your throwing knives for as long as you want. There is no cap on how long you can hold these. If you want, you can hold these for the entire round, and it's an instant burst of damage when you engage in a fight. As you might expect, the throwing knives have a little bit of an arc, so if I put my crosshair on this guy's head, it's not going to hit the head because it has a little bit of an arc. Do keep in mind that your crosshair will go down and then up a little bit after you throw them, but this will recenter automatically. That being said, the throwing knives do not have any fall-off damage. However, there is a limited range for them, and it might not behave the way you expect. So, when I'm here, for example, I can't damage him, even though you see my knives clearly hit my enemy. You might think, oh, that might be a false predict, but if I step forward just a little bit, they will hit. Also, the damage distance fall-off thingy is measured by time traveled with your knives, not the actual player position. So, for example, I can hit this light on the torso, but not on the feet, because it's just a little bit further. So yeah, keep in mind that your knives have a range of about 40 meters. It's a little bit less than that, I think. Yeah, so it's about 70 or 38 to 37 meters. So try not to snipe too much, because you're just wasting time. That's everything about the throwing knives. Now I want to go over to some of the gadgets that work really, really well with the knives themselves. First off is the tracking dart. Now, tracking dart itself isn't too great of a gadget, but they synergize really well with the knives for a few different reasons. The first and most obvious is that when you're within that 40 range, you can't, of course, do any damage. So being able to do anything from afar, like tracking, is going to be very useful. As a throwing knives player, you are a scout first and foremost. You want to help your team as much as possible with enemy positions. So even when your tracking darts are on cooldown, mark as much as you can when you see someone. This will help your team tremendously. Trust me, it's going to be great, even if you're not in voice chat. So yeah, when you're in this range where you can't really do anything, being able to track for your team is very useful. The other reason why tracking darts work really well with the throwing knives in particular is because when you hit your right click on a light, you leave them with 10 HP, which is not a lot, and it's more than enough for a melee. But if you do hit a crazy snipe, for example, this is not crazy snipe range, but sometimes it can be hard to follow up with that last knife, like that, when they're moving and when they have other teammates that protect them. This is where the tracking darts actually come in really nicely. The tracking darts do 5 damage per dart, so if you hit someone, you can hit them with 2 tracking darts, and they will die. Also, something to keep in mind is that the tracking darts have perfect accuracy, even when not scoped. So this medium in the background, for example, you can pretty easily hit them with good timing. That's everything for the tracking darts. Let's go over to my favorite gadget in the whole game, the gravity vortex. Now, the gravity vortex is the most underused item in the entire game. This thing is absolutely insane. It does a lot of things you might not think it does. And what it's best at is disrupting. The vortex itself has a range of about 5 meters. It's a little bit less than 5 meters, so about here. Within that range, On activation, it'll pull things in, and then it will kind of pulse between pushing and pulling and pushing and pulling. And at the end, it will go unstable, and it can throw things around. As per demonstration. As seen in previous videos of mine, they're very good for disrupting people when they want to cash out. But there are a few nice little tricks that I'd like to show you. Try to put your vortex above a cash out like this. That way, whenever someone starts stealing, you can pull it up and disrupt the steal. Something else you can do is similar to technique. It's a lot harder, and I don't recommend doing it. Is what you can pretend this is the cash out station real quick. Is you can pull in the enemy himself if you know they're gonna steal from one particular side. It's a lot more effective because people can still stick the seal whenever they're both pulled in if they get lucky. This will definitely guarantee them being pulled away, but it's a lot harder to set up and predict. This is of course because the vortex itself isn't invisible. However, there are ways to fix that problem. So, when putting down a gravity vortex on the floor, there's a few things that give away its position. One thing you might think is, oh well, there's a big swirly of particles coming out of it. Whenever you're playing a game, you can sometimes see them, and it doesn't always work for some reason. But keep in mind that your teammates cannot see those particles. Your teammates see this all the time. However, this is of course not very well hidden, so you can grab one of these glitch barrels. They work the best with the glitch barrels since they're upright whenever you hold them. But it's basically invisible right now. You can still hear it, but in the heat of the battle, no one's really gonna notice. And you've got the added benefit of being able to do this. This works especially well on lights, because glitching them makes it so they can't dash out or grapple out, which is the biggest counter to your vortex. Let's go over to my fourth main gadget, that being the gateway. I'm not going to really go into the gateway too much. Great for movement, great for team synergy, but the best use of the gateway is of course to kidnap cash boxes. If you put a gateway above a vault, it'll pop into the gateway like this. So you can put a gateway above a vault, and when the cash box pops out, it'll pop into the gateway. Be sure you grab it as soon as you can, because sometimes it will pop a little bit too high, and then it can pop back into the gateway, which is not good. Do keep in mind that the gateway can be glitched, so if you know your enemy team has run a glitch grenade, you gotta be careful with that. Alright, let's go over to the reserve, and you might be shocked to find that I am running ARN in my reserve. The ARN is a great far-range weapon, and sometimes, on Kyoto, you can't really run throwing knives as consistently. I definitely try and get away with it as much as I can. I definitely have a few clips on Kyoto, but not a lot, because Kyoto is just not a great map for throwing knives. And the ARN has great range and great damage. I mean, do I have to say more? So it's a great weapon to swamp to whenever your throwing knives are not working.
As for your gadgets, it doesn't really matter too much what you run. I run these 3 gadgets in my reserve. I swap them out with my tracking darts as much as possible. But just put in your reserve what you like the most yourself. Try and experiment and have fun.
Nullifier. Definitely not as good as the stun gun used to be. Still very fun though. You want to mainly use this for defending cash outs, but you already have the vortex, so you can swap this out with your vortex if you really don't know how to use it. But I recommend learning the vortex instead of the nullifier because it's a lot more fun and a lot more useful if you get the hang of it. So when you're running nullifier and vortex, you don't want to use this to defend cash outs, but you want to use this to just get the upper hand in a team fight, because you're a light, you don't have a lot of health. So being able to just put someone on the side bench for a little bit can be useful. Just keep in mind that the nullifier doesn't last too long, so you have to kill someone within the time that the nullifier is active, and then you also still have to fight the other guy, which is a little hard, which is why the nullifier isn't as good anymore. If you're struggling with positioning, Google grenades are just good for defense, great for blocking choke points and controlling where enemies go. So try it out.
It's goo for the price of one.
I know Neon Guts is gonna be unhappy with my guts, but please use the evasive dash whenever you're using throwing knives. They make it so much easier. With throwing knives at close range and high-speed gameplay, you want to be able to break someone's ankles like this to get the upper hand. Grappling hook is really good for overall movement, but evasive dash is just so much better. Also, don't use the cloaking device. If you really want to go cloak, use the vanishing bomb. Alright, let's go over to some honorable mentions. I want to share something interesting about how XP is tracked for most gadgets. For the tracking dart, every time you hit an enemy, you get 150 XP for that gadget, or for that tracking dart, which contributes to getting those cool weapon skins. If you miss, for example, you don't get any XP. So you get 150 on hit and 0 on miss. The tracking darts are one of the few things that can't actually get XP for an elimination, which is interesting to me. And they also don't give XP on damage, so it's only on hitting and tracking enemies. Something interesting to note is that items like the goo grenade actually get XP on deployment, so the moment you shoot them, you get like 50 XP, if I'm not mistaken, for the goo grenade. However, for things like the breach charge, you don't get deployment XP, because you can pick them back up. This, however, for some reason, doesn't count for the gravity vortex. So the gravity vortex gives you 50 XP on deployment, and since you can pick it up, you can actually farm your XP like this. Now the reason why I think this is because I think early in its development, the gravity vortex was just a throwable, like a grenade, or goo grenade, and then it would activate after a short prime. But then they later realized that gravity vortex would be a lot better if it had a detonator, and they just forgot to change the XP. Or they just shared the same values as like the goo grenade, and then they changed up the goo grenade, and then made it into the gravity vortex. Either way, you can farm XP really fast whenever you don't have anything to do, whenever you're like defending a cash out and you're waiting for the enemy team. Interesting stuff. Anyway, that's it for this video. This is all the theory stuff. If you want to see more practical stuff, I can make a video where I just go over my thought process when I'm playing the game, and have it a little bit more in-depth tutorial-y video instead of just clips. So if you want to see that, please let me know down below. And if you have any other cool video ideas / challenges, please let me know as well. I read all your comments, and I appreciate all the kind words and everything surrounded by that. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.